Hello, guys. This is Alex Julian or Aloysius Zanderman here. Tonight I will be reviewing McDonald's in Mojave. And it's easy to find this McDonald's because it's across the street from Jack in the Box in that same railroad town. And I give a toast to the gold rush history that we have had there and give a tribute to our ancestors when it comes to the dedication of their lives for creating a civilization greater than just a region or even greater than just a tribe. And I give a toast to that with this Diet Coke here, as you can see. Diet Coke. And I will pour this in memories of the lives dedicated, including the lives lost for the finding of civilization between man unto himself. Toast. Do you hear the bubbles? Bubbles. Toast with a Diet Coke. So, when it comes to Mojave, and when it comes to McDonald's, definitely something is sticking as a sour note for visitors who generalize in that vicinity close to gas stations, Motel 6, other hotels, and the general infrastructure of the motel slash hotel industry that is in the Mojave region. And definitely Mojave has very important history of NASA, as in space travel technology, in that traditional railroad society that is Mojave, which has a lot of grand deserts and a lot of grand appeal. Now, with gossip about the McDonald's or about the Mojave region, a lot of gossip can seem weird or out of place or even a little bit rude or temperamental. But hey, let's keep in mind that people will be people, society will be society, and a guy will be a guy. And it is important for us to develop our own stories about our lives and pass the stories on to each other for us to take credit and to believe in. Unless you're somehow too obvious to be unbelievable, or too dishonest to be believable. And hey, when it comes to this McDonald's in Mojave, I think they have a lot on their plate when it comes to cooking food properly and giving it thumbs up where they can, even if they have to use their own thumbs. And, okay, so, toast to cowboys, of course. Cowboys. I know this is not a symbol for California. I know it's a symbol for Texas, but I like to think of cowboys as something universal. So, Star Cowboys. Yes. So, where do the myths begin with Mojave? Where do the legends begin with Mojave? Well, definitely just the choo-choo train. The choo-choo train acts as a legend in motion, as in mythology in motion. Because a lot of people may hear stories about the railroad, but would probably not yet believe everything that is absolutely said about railroads. And we have to remember those lyrics by Gordon Lightfoot, a folk singer for Canada decades back, who said in his song Canadian Railroad Trilogy, "There was a time in the spirit land when the railroad did not run, and the green dark forest was too silent to be real." Very interesting lyrics, definitely, for that folk song by Gordon Lightfoot. And we have to remember that our settlements on mountaintops, our settlements on big hills, is an artificial creation to an extent. In fact, here in Tehachapi, with where I am on Indian Wells, I cannot walk over to anywhere nearby. I cannot walk to a restaurant. I cannot walk to a store. Everything has to be driven. I have to take a car, take a vehicle to go somewhere. And I do not drive, and I am mentally ill, and I am dependent on my dad. I'm dependent on my brother Nathan. I'm even to an extent dependent on my other big brother Evan to drive and take me to places, because honestly, it is very difficult to walk on hills, if not impossible to do, because of the angles and the gravity and the physics and everything. We have to remember that cliche poem about Jack and Jill. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. Yeah, so what does that mean? Well, it means Jack probably died, and Jill probably died as well. And, well, that's the sad thing of the history of attempting to walk on hills, attempting to walk on mountains all around us, with there being this notion of blood, sweat, and tears all around us. And McDonald's in Mojave, California has had a lot of trouble when it comes to keeping quality going, as in getting the quality going and having that quality go zip and zing on the front page of it, especially since their restaurant has been frequented by some disagreeable faces, and it's not really certain yet how they should manage everything under the sun, or how they could even keep everything in the light. Food is something that requires a lot of handling, a lot of shipping, a lot of delivering, when it comes to having those notions of time and space and keeping track of where cheese goes, where hamburger goes, where pickles go, where ketchup goes, where mustard goes, where mayonnaise goes. And I'm just having run on sentences here with this kind of fascination or romanticism, even about the troubles and struggles of McDonald's and Mojave. Because after all, I mean, there's that shakeup of the railroad system when it comes to that train that bounces all along on the edge side to the Mojave town. And definitely it would be weird to call this town a village, but then again, Mojave is smaller than Tehachapi, and yet offers some things that Tehachapi does not have. Right now in Tehachapi, they are digging some holes and building some buildings and maintaining quarters in different parts of the land here in Tehachapi. And right here in Tehachapi, they are developing a new food mart called Roadrunner, and they are setting up more and more attributable foundations for the whereabouts of man in his hunger and thirst for more entertainment as well as more edification. It does get tricky. And McDonald's and Mojave, well, they have a lot going for them. And it is hard for their workers to maintain agreeable personalities while serving the random public in Mojave. And it does get tricky because there can be disagreeable neighbors and disagreeable sections of society, and it gets hard to tell where to put the market on the ringer, especially with there being up to standard pleasures and up to standard humors. And we have to consider it carefully. I mean, like, what is the problem here? What is the problem? Well, definitely McDonald's and Mojave does have trouble cooking their meats appropriately, and some of their burgers and fries are more crusty around the edges, with there being heat more towards the center. And, just so you guys know, these cheeseburgers at McDonald's are extraordinarily small. And that's fine because I do not need a big, giant gut bomb in order to enjoy the tastes. And in fact, to enjoy the tastes, I would prefer less gut bombs and more surprises in the Happy Meal. Even if I neglect the toy and just get the choices of maybe a pie, maybe a cheeseburger, maybe a fry, to go up to excitement and level enthusiasm to appreciate the wonders and greatness of McDonald's in Mojave. But then again, their kiosks have been disagreeable there at McDonald's in Mojave. Their kiosks can go out of function, or they can stop working. And I'm not sure if it's merely because of the weather. Definitely that Railroad Society does have connections to rough internet because of the rough nature of their Railroad Society when it comes to trains going by here and there and bouncing signals between phones and computers in that region. In fact, it may even seem as if like your phone can work better than your computer in terms of internet connection. It just depends on what the nature really is around you and what the nature is of your reality when it comes to keeping in touch with the internet connection system. And definitely McDonald's has been trying to promote their McCafe slogan to a vain attempt, and that is because they would assume that they have a cafe, a coffee house, when their bakery treats would be out of order and their morning coffee would not keep that same quality as day rings in for the rest of the working hours into the night. So it's more possible to get good quality coffee at McDonald's in the morning than it is to get it at noon or get it at dinner. And that's weird because coffee in the South especially can be very appropriate for dinner, even if it's not breakfast time. So when it comes to McDonald's and Mojave, definitely their condiments can be in check because it can get less frequent in that building zone. It can get less populated in that lunch and dinner hour, maybe even less at breakfast hour, and the folks in Mojave try to keep up with their errands and work and lines of duty with their combination of movements going around in that McDonald's territory when it comes to getting the gist of it with opening features, but it is life. So, the friendliness of this McDonald's is not really good because of how the workers tend to drift off, or they tend to point their faces at objects that have no animation to them, as if like they're expecting a Big Mac box to grow a tongue out of the lid and say, "Hello, how you doing? I'm really right here, and I'm your Big Mac, and I can talk this way." But I don't know. They can get really silly when it comes to their fanaticism or their superstitious feeling of what they perceive to be talking foods around in the area, as if they're still expecting those talking chicken nuggets to fly in the air and dip into a cup of barbecue sauce. Yeah, that's just really weird, and yeah, and who knows? Definitely, there's still a history of smoking in the Tehachapi region, and there are some guys who do smoke outside, and that is a minor complaint. But hey, as long as they smoke in their smoking zones, that's fine. But remember what I said as Yosemite Sam in one of my videos on Wizard of Oz, even, where I would say in my voice acting, "Why in tarnation? That was terrible! Get out of here!" And definitely, that was a parody on a song for Wizard of Oz, where I was make believing that the witch is dead and all this stuff. And well, unfortunately, the witch is not so dead in this department for the outgo of life. And I do have photos, of course, of my trip to Mojave, my trip to Lancaster, my trip to Tommy's, my trip to Whereabouts. And I'm posting more and more of my poems under my videos, so that way there's random assortments of my literature available for you to read. And I'm shuffling the cards a little bit to make it seem like my text bubbles below my videos are acting as like text radios, as in data things for radiographic images containing poetry, as in literature off of my tongue and off of my penmanship in my hand. And definitely, we need to remember also that I do express poetry outside of poetry as well. And in fact, it can seem like poetry shakes a little bit from back and forth and back again when it comes to the humors appropriate to the pleasures or denials of life and death, with there being the circle of life in counterintuitive feel of it. So, yeah, the drive-through at McDonald's in Mojave can get slow. And one thing that really irritates me most about McDonald's in Mojave is I have to practically snatch an employee in my mind to get the employee to come over and take my money for my order. And the workers ignore me even when they have my food ready, and they do not properly welcome me or thank me or whatever. And they act more like uninterested factory workers who do not give much care to customers. And I think it's because they do not really know how to be social or how to be social living when it comes to interacting with customers. Because obviously, if it's a town like Mojave, a railroad town even, where there's limited opportunity to get along with others or limited opportunity to talk to others, there's also limited opportunity for a social life. And it does get tricky because there's a lot of poverty in Mojave. In fact, I would really hope to help these guys by donating to the Ronald McDonald House charity. It just goes to show with the ongoing pursuits of happiness and the ongoing pursuits of social life, how much we need each other and how much humans need to get along with others and how much it takes to serve food on an order. Okay, so at this McDonald's in Mojave, as I've suggested throughout this video thus far, the service is unattentive and slow, and they do not cook their food really well, and also the place can get messy, especially with the restrooms in front lobby. So messy that I'm beginning to think that they need a remodel somewhere, or they need to adjust their current space to make it more approachable. And on that kind of note for it, I give this McDonald's in Mojave, California, easily 1.7 stars out of 5. 1.7 stars out of 5, because it's like there can be something sort of useful about the place, but it doesn't really amount to any average, and definitely it gets below towards the ground when it comes to any redeeming values there could be at this place, which is more like disorder rather than order. And the justice of this Mojave location is just that it's near the railroad, even when there's obviously plenty of education around that area to extend and amount to hype when it comes to being learned and being wise enough to take to the chase. But then again, it depends on someone's wealth. It does depend on someone's wealth. It does depend on someone's outside reach of the landscape when it comes to knowing where to put the market, knowing where to put the dispute, knowing where to put the conversation. And I don't know, even the drive-through at that McDonald's in Mojave can seem boring or dull because they just do not seem to talk to each other very much, or they tend to sail off in different directions, looking fruitlessly for the wonders of the imagination. And, well, I could also have sympathy for them on that because it is Mojave, California, a railroad town, a railroad sort of village, and if it weren't for the trains and modern vehicles and such, there would be nothing there, or maybe very little. And that is my review for you guys, and I toast to you with the soda lid, a tribute to Mojave, California, with tribute with prayer to God for the suffering and the glory and the sacrifice of our ancestors, and the unfortunate tragedies committed on the poor Indian population with their innocence towards guilty cowboys. And hopefully the Native American tribes can gather around again and breathe themselves more to match eloquence with the time, and they could recover, and hopefully they could tell us stories about their land and everything, because spirithood, as in spirituality, does connect to us all, even if it may be stories of wild animals and stories of hunting rather than modern city life. And we must remember that there was tribute done by Native Americans for America, and it wasn't just a one-way street. It was generosity for all sides, and we should appreciate that and condemn racism, condemn prejudice, condemn hatred, and we should remember that life is a game, and it is a long game for us to surrender our spirits to when it comes to time and space continuum and the ABC 1, 2, 3 lessons of everyday living. I hope you guys take care and have a nice day, and remember, say no to racism, respect the gold rush history, and treat California as your friend everywhere in the state, everywhere in this nation. You take care and have a good one.